The shocking truth about Leviticus. 7 dark secrets that change everything forever. The air buzzed with tension as the townsfolk gossiped. They packed the little diner on Main Street, eyes darting like excited children on Christmas morning, eager to uncover the hidden horrors lurking in their ancient texts. Leviticus, a book that promised order but whispered darkness. What did it really hold? 7 secrets that could topple beliefs and shatter peace. This wasn't just any book. It was a portal to old laws and even older curses. It gripped their hearts, binding them with fear and fascination. Marie, a waitress with hands shaking slightly, spilled coffee on a customer's lap. I can't help it, it's just... They're saying Leviticus talks about death. So much death. The words slipped from her mouth like a haunting melody, echoing across the room. The man shot her a disapproving glance, as others leaned closer, anticipation simmering in the air. Did it really? Did it tell of sins that could draw the wrath of the heavens? People leaned in, breathless, as old Mr. Jenkins, with his white beard and wisdom lines, whispered about the gathering storm. You think it's just a book of laws? No way. There are passages that talk about those who rebel against the rules, and some who dared to break the sacred codes. They ended up cursed. Look around us. Are we next? The flutter of unease swept through the diner. Nervous laughter mixed with panic. The silent, disapproving looks from neighboring booths only escalated the tension. Suddenly, a loud crash broke the murmurs, and all heads turned to the back. A heavy book had fallen onto the floor. Leviticus, as if called by an unseen force, opened to a page filled with ominous warnings. A hush engulfed the room. Everyone could feel it, that electric shiver running up their spines, fingers trembling as they glanced at the vintage text. What if the words held more than historic guidelines? What if they echoed in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the room filled with muffled gasps, Maria's heart raced. She stood frozen, feeling the weight of eyes upon her. What would happen if the dark secrets of Leviticus spilled into their lives? The answer drifted in the air, thick and palpable. Would they become the next victims of its laws? In that instant, the diner transformed into a battlefield of faith against fear, each face painted with shadows of uncertainty. Was the curse real? And was time already running out? The diner was thick with tension, each breath laced with unease. The old book lay sprawled open on the floor, its pages flapping softly as if caught in an unseen wind. The townsfolk's whispers turned into anxious chatter, a chorus of disbelief and fear. Marie felt sweat trickling down her back, her stomach twisted tightly like a coiled spring. Who would speak first? Fear gripped her throat, and she swallowed hard. Look at it, it's alive. Someone gasped, breaking the spell of silence. Laughter cracked through the fear, but it only amplified the sense of dread. Dark eyes flicked toward the shadowy words as if they might spring up and seize them. That's just an old book. It can't hurt us, but the voice wavered, lacking conviction. Marie stepped toward the book, her instincts pulling her closer. She could almost hear the whispers of the past, the warnings etched on those aged pages. An invisible pull drew her in. She crouched down, reading the passage that had caught everyone's attention. The words dripped with foreboding. Those who defy my commands shall know no peace, for the land will seize upon them, and their bones shall cry out in agony. A chill snaked down her spine. Acquaintances who once laughed together now exchanged nervous glances. Old Mrs. Thompson clutched her rosary tightly, whispering prayers under her breath, her upper lip trembling as if she could taste the impending doom. What if? Another voice cut through the murmurs. It was young Timmy, a freckle-faced kid who often sat alone, scribbling in his notepad. What if this is a warning? Like, what if someone is about to break a rule? A cold silence fell, a shared realization dawning among them. Who among them would tempt fate? Each person's eyes darted around the room, accusations starting to game in their minds. Secrets, buried and festering, seemed to float to the surface alongside the rising panic. Marie felt her heart racing faster now. There was something more profound behind those words, a shared history of transgressions they had all committed. Ben, the mechanic who had taken shortcuts in his work. Judy, who once gossiped relentlessly about her neighbors. The quiet ones, harboring their resentments. Mr. Jenkins' voice trembling, broke through the tension. We must confront the truth. If we ignore it, we invite temptation. We can't allow this curse to find us. He stood up, his gaze fierce, igniting a flicker of courage in the room. But even his call to action stirred doubt. What truth was meant to be confronted? Would they share their secrets, expose their sins, or would they remain buried, growing like weeds until the ground erupted with the weight of their hidden wrongs? Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the diner into a dim twilight. Gasps filled the air as the shadows grew longer, as if the very walls were alive, absorbing their fears. It was now or never. The weight of history pressed heavily upon them. Marie, read more, someone urged, a hint of desperation piercing through the noise. The room fell quiet again, anticipation hanging thick like fog. With trembling fingers, she turned to the next page and began to read aloud. But as she spoke the chilling lines, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, startling everyone. The door swung open violently, revealing what or who stood blocking the entrance. Their faces screamed a mix of terror and bewilderment. Was it possible that Leviticus was already at work, manifesting their deepest fears right before their eyes? What had been unleashed, and who among them would be forced to reckon with the unholy truth? The figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in shadow, its silhouette twisting grotesquely against the light. Gasps echoed like ripples on water, each breath catching like a hook in the throat. It was a man, but not any man they recognized, his clothes tattered, skin pale and drawn tight over hollow cheeks. He stepped forward, each footfall heavy with dread, and the atmosphere in the diner thickened, pressing against Marie's chest. Who are you?" Marie managed to stammer, her heart thundering like a drum in her ears. The townsfolk shifted restlessly, some edging back toward the counter, others frozen in place, wide-eyed. The man's eyes glinted in the dim light, a haunting void that swallowed the hope in the room. "I am the keeper of secrets," he rasped, his voice a chilling whisper that sent shivers along Marie's spine. "And you are all here to face what you have buried. The book, it is merely a vessel." A low murmur swept through the diner, an understanding creeping in like shadows at dusk. The words of the book, the warnings they had dismissed, were they real? Was this man somehow entwined in it all? Ignoring their mounting fear, Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, fists clenched. "What do you mean? What do you want from us?" The figure chuckled, an eerie sound that made the diners recoil. "The land remembers, my friends. It remembers the trespasses, the lies, the grievances, and it will not let you go unpunished. Each of you carries a weight, and it will return to you tenfold." A murmur of panic rippled through the room. Marie's mind raced. What weight did they all carry? Was it Timmy's innocent scribbles in the shadows? Or Ben's shortcuts that could have cost lives? "They're just thoughts," she shouted, trying to quell the rising tide of fear. "You can't just touch our past." "Oh, but that's where you're wrong," he replied, stepping fully into the light. His eyes burned with a dark flame. "This isn't just about you. The land hungers for justice, and it will devour those who refuse to acknowledge it." Suddenly, the diner shook as a violent jolt reverberated through the floor, rattling dishes and causing the lights to flicker wildly. Screams filled the air as windows shattered, and chaos erupted. The people scrambled, clutching at each other, their fears coming alive, the fabric of their tightly held normality tearing apart. Marie grabbed Timmy's arm, her voice hoarse. "We need to leave." As they stumbled toward the door, The man lifted his hand, and silence fell. The shadows elongated around him, and the hints of darkness crawled along the corners. Flee if you must, but know this: the truth is a relentless beast. You can run, but it will chase you until you surrender. But even with their collective dread unspooling before them, something deep inside Marie stirred. A flicker of rebellion ignited. Were they truly willing to let fear control everything they were? The nightmare weighed heavy on them. Glancing around at the frightened faces, Marie knew they had to face this. It wasn't just about survival, it was about overcoming. Together, she shouted, determination igniting her voice. We can confront this. As they turned back, the man's mouth twisted into a mockery of a smile. Very well. Embrace your truths, then. You will see the land's reckoning. You think you know fear? You're just beginning. The ground trembled again, a harbinger of what was to come, and as the shadows shifted ominously, Marie felt an awful certainty settle in her gut. The battle ahead wouldn't just be for their lives, but for the very essence of their souls. What truths would surface, and who among them would break under the weight when the land finally demanded its due? The air grew colder, wrapping around Marie like a shroud as they faced the figure. Everyone stood paralyzed, caught between the pull of darkness and the urge to fight back. Mr. Jenkins finally let out a shaky laugh, though desperation was evident. We're not afraid of you. But the man merely tilted his head, his gaze sharp like a knife. Fear is not the only thing at play. Look within yourselves. What song does your conscience sing? Timmy, still gripping Maria's hand, asked with childlike innocence. What does he mean, Marie? Her stomach twisted. I don't know, but we have to be ready for whatever he brings. The diner shook once more, this time with a fierce intensity that made the lights flicker ominously. Casual conversations and laughter morphed into a cacophony of panic as plates flew off the table, smashing against the tiled floor. A woman screamed in the corner, dropping her coffee cup, sending hot liquid spilling everywhere. The man in the shadows raised his hands, and an eerie calm followed, the din fading into hushed breaths. Save your screams for the truth that comes knocking at your door, he said, voice slithering through the sudden quiet. You've buried your secrets, but they don't stay buried. As if triggered by his words, shadows began to pulsate along the walls, gathering into grotesque shapes that mirrored the townsfolk's fears. Someone's husband, long thought gone, appeared before a glassy-eyed woman in the back, fading in and out like a wisp of smoke. Another shadow morphed into a triumphant figure holding a bloody axe over a fire. Gasps filled the space. No, no! Creatures of guilt and shame manifested themselves, slithering to taunt the terrified patrons. Run! Someone screamed, but bonds of fear held them in place. The shadows prevented escape, feeding off their terror. Marie squeezed Timmy's hand tighter, her heart racing in a desperate rhythm. We need to confront whatever that is, she shouted to the others over the rising tide of chaos. But it was hard to be heard. We have to fight this. A flicker of defiance sparked in Ben's eyes. You're right. We can't let this whatever it is, control us. He stepped forward, bravely defying the shadows creeping closer. The man only smiled wider. Ah, the flames of defiance. But are you prepared to burn? To shed the darkness you've nurtured? Suddenly, a spotlight of blinding white shone down from the ceiling, illuminating Maria's face. She could barely make out the shapes morphing around her as the light pushed against the shadows. Use your truths, the figure wailed, and all at once the weight of guilt and shame twisted within her. She could feel the memories swimming to the surface. Your secrets can either consume you or empower you. Marie swallowed hard. Images flashed through her mind, moments of betrayal, decisions that haunted her. She could feel the shadows pressing harder, demanding results. She turned to the townsfolk and raised her voice. This is our moment. We've given these fears power by hiding them. No more. Timmy chirped up beside her. What if we tell the truth? All of it. The people hesitated, uncertainty carving lines into their faces. But one by one, murmurs began to rise, voices gaining strength. A woman stepped forward, shaking like a leaf. "My brother, I never told you how he died." I blamed myself. The shadows shrank, just a bit, recoiling from the awakening light of shared truth. Some in the diner stepped forward, revealing long-concealed guilt and sorrow. The man in shadow laughed, but there was an edge to it, something faltering. "You think this can save you?" he mocked, yet the tremor in his voice hinted at doubt. "Yes," Marie declared, a pulse of strength coursing through her. "We will cast out the darkness together. It cannot hold us." As the last words echoed through the diner, the ground trembled yet again, but this time with a different resonance, defiance, perhaps, or hope. The shadows hissed and twitched, retreating as the truth spilled forth like sunlight piercing through the cracks. But before the figure disappeared into the void, his eyes narrowed, and as he melted into shadows, a chilling warning uttered through gritted teeth. "You may think you've escaped, but this is only the beginning." The ground stopped shaking, leaving an eerie silence in the once chaotic diner. Marie looked around at her neighbors, breathless, fear still lingering but now mixed with courage. They had faced down the darkness together, yet the truth of what they unleashed still hung heavy in the air. What awaited her beyond this confrontation? And would the shadows return to collect their due? The tense silence in the diner felt suffocating, almost suffused with the lingering essence of the man who had just vanished. Shadows still danced around the walls, but they now appeared diminished, as though a thin veil had been drawn away to reveal their true, insubstantial nature. Maria's pulse quickened. She could feel it, the weight of unconfessed, uncomfortable truths wavering in the air among her neighbors. She glanced at Timmy, who stared wide-eyed, still clutching her hand tightly. They had pushed back the darkness for now, but a deep instinct inside her told her this battle was hardly over. "Marie?" Timmy's voice trembled as he faced the remnants of chaos. "What is going to happen now?" The uncertainty hung ominously between them. "I don't know, but we need to stay strong," she managed, forcing a smile she didn't feel. Ben stepped forward, sweat beading on his brow. "It's not just about pushing back. We have to understand what he meant about confronting our darkness, our truths." He looked around at the still hesitant faces of the townsfolk. "If we let fear take over again, it will only grow." A murmur of reluctance rippled through the room. Fear entangled with hope, each competing for space within the hearts that had just begun to incite courage. Marie felt the pang of worry knotting her stomach. "We need one person to speak up," Ben pressed on, eyes scanning the crowd. "One truth will spark the next. I can't do this alone." Maria's heart raced. What could she contribute? She opened her mouth, but the room was saturated with hesitation. Then, out of the shadowy corner, an unexpected figure stepped into the light. Mrs. Hawthorne. Her usually soft demeanor was replaced by a fierce glint in her eye. "I'll go first," she said, voice steady but hands trembling. "Years ago I had an affair. My husband never found out, and I've lived every day with that weight. It destroyed my marriage, my family. I was selfish." Her breath hitched and the room fell silent, everyone drinking in her confession like bitter medicine. A gust of wind swept through the diner, rustling the abandoned napkins in ghostly whispers. Yet, as her truth poured out, it felt as if the shadows transformed from terrifying beasts into fleeting specters, quaking in the wake of her confession. "I never wanted to admit it," Mrs. Hawthorne continued, unflinching, "but now it feels light, almost freeing. This is what that man was talking about." With a nervous glance around the diner, another patron finally stepped into the spotlight, a local bartender named Samuel, a man who carried an unspoken sense of loss. "I can't keep hiding either. My brother, I turned my back on him when he needed me most. He died alone and in pain. I thought I was strong, but I was just scared." Each confession seemed to strike a chord. Shadows flickered and shrank as the weight of the secrets began to lift, echoing with growing murmurs of understanding and sympathy. The diner gradually transformed into a confessional, raw emotions spilling forth as the townsfolk laid bare their guilt and remorse. "I was supposed to protect her," cried a young mother stepping forward. "But I chose to ignore the signs, and when she needed me, I wasn't there. My daughter tears streamed down her cheeks as she fell silent, but the gravity of her truth resonated with a shared pain, a collective feeling of failure. With each confession, the air grew thicker with emotion, binding the room together. The darkness that once choked their throats now shed its grip, scattering under the power of vulnerability. But still, an undercurrent of fear twisted among the souls present. And Marie knew they hadn't encountered their greatest trial while more voices rose to the surface. The diner vibrated with solace yet kept a sense of trepidation lingering. Shadows reformed with each shared truth, bending but not vanquished. Are we safe now? Timmy asked quietly. Lifting her chin, Marie turned to her neighbors. This is just the beginning, she said, trying to rally them with spirited determination. But we are stronger together. Another rumble quaked through the floor, fiercer than before, bringing a collective gasp from the patrons. The lights began to flicker erratically, and the very walls seemed to shudder at the weight of their confessions. Did we wake something? A voice trembled from the back, fear saturating their tone as shadows coalesced once more, darker and more formidable. One haunting figure slipped silently from the depths. A once familiar face materialized, twisted with rage and despair. The man they thought they had banished returned, more vengeful than ever. You think your truths give you strength? I feast on your nightmares. The air crackled with tension as Marie's heart raced with dread, but also newfound resolve. They were out of time. Would their truths protect them, or would they feed the darkness even more? The answer loomed in the frigid air, heavy with anticipation. As they stood united, staring down the embodiment of their worst fears. The shadows twisted and writhed like live serpents, coiling tighter with the figure of the man who had returned. A vengeful specter birthed from the collective fright of the townsfolk. Silence reigned, each heartbeat amplified in the deafening stillness. As Marie's stomach churned with a cocktail of fear and determination, she could feel every eye in the diner burning into her, expecting her to rise, to lead. Stay back, Ben shouted, stepping in front of Marie and Timmy. His voice cracked, splitting the heavy tension that threatened to crush them. You don't scare us. The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the diner, each note laced with malice. Brave words from people who let their truths own them, he sneered. Shadows surged forward, flickering like flames. You think you have power now? Your confessions have only made me stronger. Marie fought to remain calm as panic gripped her heart. Looking around, she saw the dazed expressions in her neighbors, the fear pooling in their eyes, uncertainty wrestling with the relief of their confessions. Were they truly united, or simply putty in the hands of the dark force before them? Ben, he feeds on our fear. Marie shouted suddenly, an idea sparking to life. We have to do what we did before but harder. Share more. Every truth. Every secret, it's our only weapon. Timmy's hand tightened around Marie's. But what if it gives him more power? Then we drown him in our truths. She countered, desperately seeking hope to cling to. With a deep, shaky breath, she looked back at the shadow. I refuse to live in the shadows of my own life. Moments flickered by as the turbulence in the room built to a crescendo. I'll go again, shouted a voice. It was Lydia, a schoolteacher known more for her pristine reputation than her hidden battles. I lost sight of my purpose. I let the standards of this town dictate my worth, forsaking the kids who needed me most. I let them fall. I can't carry that anymore. Her words hung in the air, electrifying the crowd. The shadows recoiled, but the man's laughter grew louder as if fueled by the tension. Truths don't hurt me. They make me stronger. Marie felt the tremor of fear weave through her veins. No, they make us stronger. She turned to the others whose eyes glimmered with fighting spirit. We all have more to share. Don't let him control you. One by one, more voices rose from the crowd. The mechanic, the nurse, even old Mr. Jenkins, usually gruff and distant, stepped forward, unraveling decades of guilt he had held. The diner transformed into a threadbare tapestry of confessions, an outpouring of regret and redemption, love and broken promises. Keep going, Marie urged, riding the wave of their courage. With each secret shared, the dark figure grew more erratic, his form flickering as if struggling to maintain his shape amidst the torrent of raw, unveiled emotions. Shadows around the diner dissipated to reveal more warmth and light, an emerging resilience. But the man snarled, fury spilling over. You think this matters? You're just delaying the inevitable. With a sudden shift, a gust of icy air ripped through the diner, extinguishing the flickering lights completely, plunging the patrons into an abyss of darkness. Gasps echoed, the sound a mix of terror and confusion as panic swiftly rolled through the diner. Marie, Timmy whimpered, clinging to her leg, terror lacing his voice. I'm here, Timmy, she called, bracing herself against the lurch of the cold. We can't stop now. We'll fight through this. I won't let you go, he cried, and in that moment, her heart hammered fiercely in her chest. Amidst the swirling darkness, a shattering light burst forth, cutting through like a knife. It illuminated the diner, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in panic. The man's visage twisted in anger, face shifting as he struggled to maintain his ghostly form. A new voice rang out strong, steady. You're not the only one who can command shadows. It was Mrs. Hawthorne, gathering the remaining embers of her courage. Our past doesn't define us. We face you together, and in that instant hope surged through the diner. Would the combined strength of their truths outshine the darkness? Marie knew they were at a crossroads where they could either break free or be consumed whole. The air crackled as the shadows fought against their shared resolve, leaving one burning question lingering heavily. How much truth would it take to vanquish the darkness once and for all? The shadows clawed at the edges of the diner as the light flickered, illuminating the faces of Marie's neighbors, each of them a reflection of hope and fear. Mrs. Hawthorne's declaration hung in the air, powerful and resolute, but the specter was unmoved. He surged forward, the darkness swirling around him like a tempest. You really think this will save you? Marie stepped forward, holding tight to Timmy, whose small body trembled against her leg. We've lived in fear for too long. We're not backing down. The man's icy grip melted momentarily as a few more voices began to echo through the room, each confession weaving a tighter rope of solidarity. I was ashamed, echoed Lydia, her fear transforming into conviction. Ashamed of my failures as a teacher. I was drunk all the time, whispered the mechanic, his hands shaking as he recalled the toll his neglect had taken on his family. Each word was a nail, driving into the heart of the darkness. The spectre's laughter turned brittle, shifting from amusement to outrage as he began to lose form. With every confession, coarse shadows fell away, revealing glimpses of the town's potential, the unity that once thrived before doubt poisoned their souls. Enough, he roared, his voice cracking like thunder. The diner trembled under the force of his anger, dishes rattling on their surfaces. But Marie pressed on. If we all speak, we drain your power. Our truths are stronger than your lies. Your truths, what have they ever done? He shrieked, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his jagged features. The diner glowed brighter with each secret, and the people around her gripped onto hope as their hearts openly bared themselves. Remember when we banded together at the park? When we stood against the storm? Mr. Jenkins shouted from the back. It's time we reclaim that strength. But those memories are buried, the specter sneered. You can't fight what you refuse to embrace. Somewhere behind Marie, old Mrs. Hawthorne stepped up, showing fierce conviction. We embrace them now. We own them. We will not be puppets to the darkness. As she spoke, a powerful wave of energy surged through the diner and wrapped around everyone present. The light intensified, piercing shadows like arrows. Even Timmy's grip lessened from her leg as it ignited his own courage. But just then, a sharp croak interrupted the collective heating warmth, a crack like thunder booming from the once opaque shadows. All eyes turned as the spectral figure drew back, recoiling from their unbroken unity. Do you think you're safe? He screeched, eyes narrowing. I can still take what you love most. A chilling panic gripped Maria's heart like a vice. What do you mean? Her voice trembled, but she wouldn't let him see her fear. As if sensing the shift in her certainty, the specter's twisted smile widened. One truth holds the key to your defeat. The shadows around him flickered ominously, swirling ever closer, seeking the crack in their resolve. What truth? Marie demanded, her mind racing. The diner fell into a breathless silence, the kind where the very air felt heavy with anticipation. The truth you refuse to recognize about yourselves, about your role in this darkness. A flash of realization cut through the tension, and uneasy whispers ricocheted around the room. What if Ben murmured, his brow furrowed? What if he's right? What if part of this is our fault too? The moment hung there, pulsing with dark possibility. Fear laced with uncertainty swept through the crowd again. Would they uncover a terrifying truth about themselves that could shift the tide of their strife? Maria's heart raced. No, we've come too far. We don't have time for hesitation. But as she looked into the eyes of her community, she knew they stood on the brink. Would they confront their darkest truths, or would they fracture under fear? Just as the shadows loomed larger, the room shifted violently, and a familiar face stepped into view, a face believed to be lost to the very darkness they sought to vanquish. Marie, it whispered, filled with both pain and strength. You have to finish before it's too late. Who was that voice calling from the depths of darkness? And would Marie uncover the truth in time to banish the shadows once and for all? The flickering light cast jagged shadows around the diner, creating an effect that felt more like a stage preparing for disaster than a sanctuary for relief. Marie squinted against the brilliant glow. The face before her, etched in both fear and familiarity, seemed to pulse like the heartbeat of this very room. Who are you? She demanded, her voice trembling yet firm. Behind her, Timmy clutched onto her skirt, eyes wide with confusion as the looming specter shifted restlessly in midair, agitated and furious. I'm your truth, Marie, the figure gasped, stepping closer into the light. It was Lena, her long-lost childhood friend, vanished years ago. The memories surged back, painted smiles, secrets shared, laughter echoing in the streets. But another memory buried deep, hurt too much to look at. You thought I was gone, didn't you? You buried me, just like you've buried your own pain. Gasps erupted around the room, a mixture of shock and disbelief as people exchanged frantic glances. Marie's breath quickened. You're not real. The darkness must be toying with us. Real or not, Marie, you can't ignore what's been lurking beneath your skin. Lena pushed back, stepping into the harsh white light. This shadow feeds on guilt, on the townspeople's hidden truths. You need to accept me, accept your past, if you want to take back your peace. Maria's mind raced, grappling with this twisted reality. But I thought I let go of everything. I made peace with my demons. You've only pushed them down, Lena replied, her voice echoing with haunting conviction. Every forgotten secret, every suppressed tear, they're still alive. That's the darkness he's talking about. You can't fight it until you embrace it. Beside Marie, she felt the electricity of her neighbor's fear swell again. We can't go digging back into those graves, shouted Lydia, anguish evident in her tone. What if the darkness we fight reveals more than we can bear? The specter sneered, his jagged smile gleaming with anticipation. You see? Just a flicker of doubt, and your unity is cursed to crumble. Face it, my dear townsfolk. Sometimes, the very things we cherish are rooted in the soil of secrets. Suddenly, the diner rattled again, the shadows clawing closer. Murmurs rose and fell rapidly among the group, tilting dangerously toward despair. Who knew what other skeletons lay buried among them? Hold on, shouted Mr. Jenkins, cutting through the rising tide of fear. Lena's right. We've got to own our truths, the good, the bad, all of it. We can't be scared of what we've done if it means standing together. With that, a courage sparked among the townsfolk, rippling through them like a whisper of hope. But what if we can't? Timmy cried, his small voice penetrating the collective uncertainty. Marie knelt down, looking him in the eyes. We can't turn our backs on what happened. Together, we face the past. We face the darkness. No more hiding, okay? He nodded, yet doubts lingered in his gaze. The spectral figure seethed, anticipating their hesitation and feeding off it. So naive. Just wait until you see what is buried, Marie. Only then will you understand true despair. With a sudden, violent swoop, the shadows surged toward the group, swarming with cold, clawing tendrils. A scream caught in Maria's throat. Everyone, speak, now, she bellowed desperately. For a moment, silence reigned. But then, one by one, voices began to rise. Confessions spilled forth broken dreams, regrets, failures crumbling beneath the weight of the truth. Each sentence breathed new light into the room, a battle cry against the pervasive darkness, but one that still felt incomplete. Just when Marie thought they were gaining momentum, Lena's voice chimed through the chaos. You know what you did. Remember that summer? It's all connected. The truth is far worse than what you can imagine. Those words twisted like daggers, slicing deep into the hearts of the townsfolk. Oh God, that summer! The air felt snatched from her lungs as they all blinked in recognition. Was Marie truly ready to face the memories that could unravel everything? What darkness had they buried, festering just beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed? As the shadows pressed harder against them, tightening their grip, Marie squeezed her fists. Would they all find the strength to uncover this great truth? Or would the darkness consume them whole? The air grew thick with dread, almost tangible as the whispers of the townsfolk twisted around them. Marie felt as though she were standing on the edge of a cliff, with darkness yawning beneath her. Each confession unleashed seemed to fracture a piece of the fragile light they'd begun to kindle. She glanced at Timmy, whose small frame trembled. Marie, he whispered, fear wrapping around his words. What if we can't face it? We have to, Timmy. For us, and for everyone. Her voice was steadier than she felt. But doubt crept through her resolve like the shadows clawing at their backs. From the corners of her eyes, she noticed others struggling. Lydia clutched onto the counter, knuckles white against the laminate, while Mr. Jenkins steeled himself, his jaw tight. Each of them wrestled with their own ghosts. The air practically hummed with unspoken fears. Do you remember how we lost Lena? A voice from the back broke the silence, quaking with hesitation. It was Mrs. Gallagher, the once vibrant woman now dulled by the weight of years. Her eyes darted, searching the crowd for support. No one talks about it, but we saw the signs. Stop! Marie shouted, panic flooding her chest. Stop talking about Lena. It's not her fault. But Lena's pale reflection shook her head mournfully. It is all connected, Marie. The shadows are watching, begging to be set free. You'll never escape if you don't remember. With a swift movement, the spectral figure conjured a gust that swept through the diner. The flickering bulbs flickered frantically, casting ghostly patterns on the features of their faces. Shadows began to distort, swirling into shapes that resembled memories long buried. Look, Lydia cried out, her voice a mix of terror and realization, as scenes materialized. A group of children playing in the warm sun, laughter echoing in the air. Before suddenly it turned dark, turned tragic. Screams pierced through the veil of memory, sending chills down Maria's spine. We ignored it. We thought it was just a game. Games can turn deadly, Lena said softly, the sadness in her voice bittersweet. And you think you've forgotten, but you never truly could. Still haunts you. As the horrific scene unfolded, Marie felt each moment like a vice gripping her soul. She remembered that dreadful summer day, like a faint twitch of pain at the back of her mind. She tried to push it away, tried to lock it down, but history refused to stay silent. With each reveal, Marie recognized more faces in the diner's crowd, guilt twisted in their expressions, and sudden bursts of anger erupted. They remembered too. The specter laughed cruelly, and the sound echoed in the hollow of the diner. What you've all buried will consume you. Don't you see? Your community flourishes on delusion, lying directly to each other. Shadows of the past, you've built them up and pretended they weren't real. The diner's tremors intensified, rattling plates and glasses. Cracks split in the floor, tendrils of darkness spilling in as if the earth itself had turned against them. Suddenly, Marie stepped forward, clenching her fists. No, we can't let it win. We share our truths. We stand together. Your unity hangs by the thinnest of threads. The darkness hissed, just waiting to be severed. The lights flickered dangerously, threatening to plunge them into total darkness. It felt as though something was about to erupt, a storm trapped in the confines of the diner, held back by sheer will. Maria's heart thundered as she turned to her neighbors, survivors of this broken town, desperate to summon their courage. Tell me, what happened that summer? A charged silence thickened, each person weighed down by their fears. But then, Timmy stepped up beside her, his small voice breaking through. If we don't tell our story, the darkness wins, right? Yes. Marie shouted, fueled by the light in his tiny gesture. Then, from behind her, Lydia spoke up, voice quaking but resolute. I'll start. I remember the games we played, the ones that went too far. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. And just like that, the floodgates opened. But would their truths be enough to thwart the encroaching darkness? Or were they simply fanning the flames of despair? As the room echoed with confessions, another scream erupted. The specter lashed out with fury, darkness weaving tighter around them, desperate to snuff out their light. Maria's heart raced. The moment of reckoning arrived, and as she dove into the chaos, she knew one thing. The real truth was about to be unleashed, and the shadows wouldn't remain silent for long. What would emerge from this confrontation? Despair or salvation? The diner hummed with a restless energy, a charged vibration that felt both electrifying and terrifying. Faces blurred in Maria's periphery, emotions hanging thick, heated reminders of the darkness they invited into their sanctuary. The specter, a vengeful vision of their hidden fears, loomed larger, feeding on their hesitation, taunting them with promises of despair. Marie stood firm, torn between dread and defiance. We can't shy away from this, she shouted over the din of escalating chaos. We need to confront what we buried. Together. Timmy's small hand gripped hers tighter as he echoed. Let us do it. The shadows writhed like wild serpents, the specter's gaze gleaming with malice. Each lie, each fear, will be your undoing, he howled. Yet the town was no longer bereft of resolve. One by one, voices began to rise, trembling yet resolute. Lydia's heartbeat quickened as she stepped into the fray, her truth bursting forth like sunlight piercing fog. I was part of the games, the laughter. I let laughter mask the danger. I watched as Lena got hurt, her voice broke but pressed on. And I said nothing. Gasps filled the air, a chorus of recognition painting disbelief across the faces surrounding her. The shadows shrieked, flicking away from renewed strength. I too, shouted Mr. Jenkins, fists shaking. I turned away when a child cried for help, thinking it wasn't my place. I thought it was safer that way. The specter recoiled slightly, the shadows dimming for a heartbeat. And that was all it took. That moment, Maria's heart soared, emboldened by the collective courage rising in the diner. No more hiding. It's our past, not our prison. This is our chance to reclaim who we are. She felt her voice lap against the walls of fear, drowning the specter's laughter in a swell of unity as the flood of confessions rushed forth. A panicked scream echoed from Timmy. What if it's too much? What if it breaks us? Then we break together. Marie called back, a fierce wave of purpose crashing over her. But we can't let this darkness dictate our lives anymore. More voices joined her. A thunderous, angry litany of flaws, faults, failures, all of which resonated through the diner and struck the specter as if it were the hammer of justice. Shadows screeched, seething in turmoil, losing form as their power waned beneath the brightness of truth. The ghost swirled, a vortex of rage and desperation. You can't summon the light of unity. You'll remain fractured under false pretenses. I control the past buried deep within you. Marie could feel it, the weight of fear lifting as they shared each tremulous memory. We're gathered here to shatter your power. You won't take us down, she shouted, high on hope. Then came an unexpected voice, Mrs. Hawthorne's, her clarity cutting through the chaos like a beacon. We must all remember that summer and the pain of our silence. I let shame dictate my actions. With that, memories danced in the air, shadows twisting and unraveling. Each name spoken, each incident unveiled chipped away at the specter's fury. It melted like ice under a sun. No, you can't presume such power lies in your confessions. The specter howled, now resembling nothing more than a quivering shadow of itself. Even as Marie felt a rush of elation, the darkness surged with one final desperate grasp. I know your deepest fears. It screeched, its voice jagged and wild. I can unearth what you wish stayed buried. A wave of air rushed forward, sweeping across the diner. But Marie met it with the fierce determination coursing through her veins. You're nothing but whispers of our past. They can't hurt us anymore. A defiance echoed back, we're stronger together. Voices rose until they melded into one infallible truth. A cacophony of memories refusing to fade back into silence. In that moment, the specter's form began to flicker and shrink, the grip of darkness loosening under the weight of their collective strength. Marie took a step forward, staring down the figure. You'll never own us again, she declared. We will lift the shadows of our past and shine a light on our truth. Time to heal. With all their might, the townsfolk united, the stories spilling freely like a river breaking through a dam. The man's face stretched, twisting in rage and disbelief until, with a final, resounding scream, he dissipated into fragments, leaving behind only the faintest whispers of dread. The diner fell quiet, shadows evaporating. The air suddenly tangible again, as if layers of a long-held tension had finally been shed. They had emerged from the darkness, but not without scars. Each person stood together, visibly shaken but reborn with purpose. Marie, her heart swelling, turned toward the familiar faces around her, the worn diner illuminated in the soft glow of victory. We did this together, she breathed. This isn't just a battle won, it's a chance to grow, to learn from what we've faced. We're not defined by our past. We carry it with us to become better. The townsfolk murmured their agreement, voices filled with hope now. As the remnants of darkness faded into memory, a new dawn unfurled before them, a future rich with connection, long-avoided conversations, and a tapestry of truth ready to heal their community. Timmy, at her side, smiled up at her, wide-eyed and unburdened. We did it, didn't we? Yes, Marie whispered back, feeling a comforting warmth envelop her. Together, we can do anything. And in that little diner on Main Street, the burdens they once carried began to lift, replaced by the flicker of new beginnings and the promise that shadows would never reign over them again. Now, for all of you reading this, don't let this story fade away. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't miss out on the next exclusive tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this community. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the end of this incredible journey. Your voice is essential in shaping the story that lies ahead. And I challenge you, go out and instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second, these stories are just beginning. And they need your support to thrive. Together, let us keep this fire alive.